to the legend that is Peter Bleksley.
Good afternoon.
You look a bit dark there. What's going on? You look like you're in the shadows. You look like something out of Sweeney. Can't see you.
I'm in my dear mother's house and I've cranked the lighting up as best I can, so please forgive me if I'm a bit gloomy.
And if the bleeding government had given her a £300 heating, she'd have got more light on and I could have seen you better.
More wattage in her bulbs, exactly.
You said it, not me. Pete, foreign criminals who avoided deportation, and we know how that is, committing more than 10,000 offences in a year. What does that say about it again?
A very interesting story. And let me tell you part of this. Not so long ago, there was an aeroplane loaded with criminals ready to deport them to Jamaica. Oh. We had, sadly, imported some of their worst, and we were going to send them back until, guess what? A whole bunch of celebrities and hand-wringers and lawyers and other people who are the scourge of this once wonderful nation started to campaign, and they actually stopped the flight. One of those said criminals that was going to go back to Jamaica then went on to, guess what, murder an entirely innocent woman. So there you go, blood on the hands of the flaky, wokey, liberal, lefty celebrities that want criminals to remain in our country.
What do you think most people would make of that story today? I know what it makes me do. It infuriates me. And yet we live in a country, in a world, you know this, Pete, where people will go, yes, but it's really important people get a second chance. What? To stay here and commit crime? These people should be deported. And the other thing that always does my head in, we as the taxpayer are paying for those human rights lawyers under the ECH bleeding R to give these people reasons to stay.
And when they do stay, they go on to commit more crime. A huge percentage of them.
Who sits where and goes, that's a good idea? How doesn't somebody in government this afternoon go, right, listen, so the ones that we want to deport that have somehow wrapped themselves around our little finger legally have committed 10,000 offences. I know I'll look good in front of the electorate. I'll make sure those offences don't happen next year by deporting those buggers as soon as possible.
Our streets are dangerous enough as it is, without importing criminals from abroad. It's absolutely scandalous. And yet the Home Office today had the temerity to release a statement saying we've increased deportations 14% on last year. Whoopee blooming do. There's tens of thousands of them that need to be put on aeroplanes and sent back from whence they came. We need to grow a spine. This government and our criminal justice system needs to be courageous, fight the European Court of Human Rights, ignore them if need be, and get very dangerous people out of this country.
I went to my kid's nativity, Oliver's nativity this morning, and I would never give out information that I shouldn't, but I sat next to a serving police officer who has done 17 years, a Bobby on the beat who agrees with everything that you say, and he's so frustrated about his job, and it must be frustrating. But I read this today, and I thought, I'm going to put this to Pete. Starmer, another one of those pledges, this was after a quango, 13 committees and 4 brainstorming sessions, has pledged 13,000 more neighbourhood police officers, something you and I have gone on about all the time, because you put bobbies on the beat. On the beat, they get intel. That's how you arrest criminals. Is that just a headline, or do you think that might happen?
Let me break this down into the truth for viewers and listeners. Yvette Cooper's promised the same 13,000, and when you actually look at the stats, about a third of them are police officers, and they won't all be brand new recruits. Some will be moved from other duties. A third will be newly recruited police community support officers. OK, I'll give a little tick for that. And a third are going to be volunteer special constables, whose obligation as a special is to do 4 whole hours a week.
You know, when you went, whose contribution is to do... I thought you weren't going to say 4 hours. I thought you were going to say something else.
Yes, well, I like to think of myself as a professional broadcaster. Consequently, I gave the truth. It's just a scam. Yeah. Policing is in absolute crisis. Criminals run amok. Our streets are becoming increasingly unsafe every single day for men, women, girls, children, you name it. And what is this government doing about it? Not very much from where I sit.
I agree with you. Now, one thing that was in the news today, and it's been everywhere, great to get your point of view. I watched lots of stuff online, lots of stuff on the news. Stalking victims are to be told a suspect's name in a right to know power. Now, I know somebody who had this happen to them, and they were not even able to be told who the suspect was for obvious reasons in the past. But that caused real problems and made that person wonder who the hell it was and look over her shoulder, left, right and centre. Is this a good thing today?
And the person we are talking about is somebody who deserves a huge amount of credit for this story today, Nicola Thorpe, formerly your colleague, who ludicrously did not know the identity of her stalker until he appeared in court. And why? Because we've got a risk-averse police service who are more concerned about data protection than they are protecting stalking victims.
I remember her saying to me, Pete, and I didn't want to give her name out because I wouldn't disrespect her in terms of if she doesn't want to come on and all that, but I remember her saying, when I knew that I was, you know, the police were involved and they wouldn't tell me, she said, I'm wondering if it's my brother, my family, a friend, a bloke down the pub, somebody at work. How has that been allowed to happen for so long?
And Nicola has been saying this widely across the media today, very courageously. I absolutely doff my cap to that young woman. It is absolutely ludicrous that this situation has been allowed to arise. The stalking laws remain complex and unclear. The police are still behind the curveball on this. And unfortunately, because there is such a chronic lack of experience amongst detectives, the length and breadth of this country, that we still have a hugely unsatisfactory response to this pernicious, wicked crime which ruins victims' lives. The police need to get a grip in so many areas, but until they have leadership and not management, until we have police service that is courageous enough to stand up to the courts, challenge court decisions, have tested cases, push the boundaries, give the public what they need, then I'm afraid we're going to get just more and more of this.
It's interesting, isn't it, the police in its entirety. Always, when we were growing up, when I was growing up, it was you were scared of them, there was respect. They get their priorities wrong. Stalking, you know, absolutely spot on. They should do something about. Deportation of foreign criminals who we want out, no. You always talk to me about, you know, policing, senior policing now is about academia. These people can't, it's a bit like Trump. I said a bit like Starmer, I said earlier. Do they not listen to what the British public want? The British public are saying to senior police officers, right, put people on the streets, forget policing in terms of you might be upsetting this group or upset. You break the law, you go to prison. You're not going to be let out after halfway. You're going to serve your crime because that makes our job a hell of a lot easier. And, hey, guess what? That makes the whole country safer, for God's sake, Pete.
There is a huge problem with our senior police and our politicians.
Yeah.
They operate in echo chambers, and the people that are beneath them tell them what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. Because in policing in particular, if you are a dissenting voice and the senior management don't like it and don't like you, your career will be scuppered. Whereas really, policing should be encouraging voices from the front line who can offer alternative methods, alternative views, all of which, of course, are lawful and can become practice, spread widely to improve it. But until the top keeps squashing the bottom and silencing it, no doubt, including that courageous man with 17 years service who sat next to you this morning, then nothing's going to change.
Great to have you. And your mum must be very proud that you're a seriously impressive television presenter now, isn't she?
I'm afraid I'm a continual disappointment to my mum, but I've taken her to her friend's 100th birthday party this afternoon, so I've got some house points.
She loves me, Pete. Thanks for being on.